أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. أما بعد، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you all very much for joining us on this Saturday to commemorate some of the Marhumeen that we have lost recently in our communities. May I please request to begin with a Surah Fatiha for Marhuma Shirin by Roshan Dewji, who is the mother-in-law of one of the founders of Momineen group, Nazir Uncle Merali. Marhuma Shirin by Mohamed Baqir Muraj, Marhum Hassanali Shivji Karim, Marhum al-Muballigh Hashim Hassanali Okera, Marhum Shaykh Ramadan Ngwame, Marhum Mohamed Alimohamed, Marhum Murtaza R. Jivraj, and all Marhumeen. Rahimallahu man qara al-Fatiha. The program will inshallah begin with the recitation of Surah Yasin by Mustafa Uncle Muraj. We will then carry on with two marshiyas inshallah by Brother Muhammad Yusuf Nur Muhammad and Brother Yusuf Okera respectively inshallah. We will then have a Majlis by Sheikh Mustafa Jaffa, after which we will end the program with a short ziyarah. So if we can begin inshallah with the Surah Yasin by Al-Hajj Mustafa Uncle Muraj, we welcome him with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثل أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا مهدرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا من حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلق يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها موردين وإذا قيل لهم انفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أحد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمر نكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند مهضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناهم من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة. بسم الله.
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. اے شمر ذرا کچھ رحم تو کھا یہ چھوٹی زہرا ہے معصوم سکینہ ہے. اے شمر ذرا کچھ رحم تو کھا یہ چھوٹی زہرا ہے معصوم سکینہ ہے. نہ مار سے نازوں سے جسے شبیر نے پالا ہے معصوم سکینہ ہے. سجاد کی بہنا کو غازی کی بھتیجی کو مانگا ہے کنیزی میں اس پھول سی بچی کو. شہ نے اپنے سجدوں میں جسے اللہ سے مانگا ہے معصوم سکینہ ہے. دوریں گے اگر نہ کہ کس طرح گر راہ میں گر جائے آواز کسے دے گی؟ پشتے ناقہ پر کیوں تنہا رسی سے باندھا ہے معصوم سکینہ ہے؟ کیا جرم کیا اس نے کیوں اس کو رلاتا ہے؟ دکھلا کے اسے پانی مٹی پہ بہاتا ہے۔ کیا تیری اولاد نہیں کیوں ظلم یہ ڈھاتا ہے؟ معصوم سکینہ ہے۔ رونے نہ دیا اس کو بابا کے لاشے پر، ہے نیل تماچوں کے معصومہ کے چہرے پر۔ اللہ جانے یہ اس پہ ستم کس بار کا بدلہ ہے؟ معصوم سکینہ ہے۔ ایک رات سرے زندہ شبیر کا سر آیا، سر لے کر گودی میں بچی نے کیا نوحہ، آنکھیں کھولو بابا دیکھو یہ کون ضعیفہ ہے؟ معصوم سکینہ ہے۔ معصوم کی گردن میں باندھی ہے رسن ایسے، گھٹ جائے گا دم اس کا میں تیز چلوں کیسے؟ یہ کہتا ہوا بیمار میرا خم ہو کر چلتا ہے۔ معصوم سکینہ ہے۔ تربت پہ سکینہ کی عابد نے کہا ہوگا یہ میری امانت ہے، رکھنا تو خیال اس کا۔ بابا بھی نہیں امو بھی نہیں تنہا یتیمہ ہے۔ معصوم سکینہ ہے۔ اے شمر ذرا کچھ رحم تو کھا، یہ چھوٹی زہرا ہے، معصوم سکینہ ہے، نہ مار اسے نازوں سے جسے شبیر نے پالا ہے، معصوم سکینہ ہے، معصوم سکینہ ہے۔ پر محمد و آل محمد صلوات، اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات، اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم۔ ہے زہرا تیری تنہائی ہے، تنہائی علی کی ہے زہرا، تیری تنہائی ہے، تنہائی علی کی، ہائے غم میں تیرے جاتی رہی، ہائے غم میں تیرے جاتی رہی، بینائی علی کی، تیری تنہائی ہے، تنہائی علی کی، دربار میں ظالم کے گئی بنت پیمبر، کیا وقت تھا کچھ کرنا، ثقافت ہے خیبر، ہائے ہنستے رہے غربت پہ تماشائی علی کی، تیری تنہائی ہے، تنہائی علی کی، پیغام ولایت لیے گھر گھر گئی زہرا، شوہر کے لیے ڈھال تھی، جب تک رہی زندہ، ہائے دنیا کو بتاتی رہی سچائی علی کی، تیری تنہائی ہے، تنہائی علی کی، در جلتا ہوا فاطمہ زہرا پہ گرایا، محسن کی شہادت کا سبب بن گئی دنیا، ہائے تصویر مکمل نہیں ہو پائی علی کی، تیری تنہائی ہے، تنہائی علی کی، زہرا کی جدائی کو لگائے ہوئے دل سے 25 برس مولا نے चुपचाप गुजारे हाय एक हुजरे में कुल दुनिया सिमट आई अली की तेरी तन्हाई है तन्हाई अली की हाय ज़हरा तेरी तन्हाई है तन्हाई अली की सूरतुल मुबारकतुल फातिहा बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. Today we have gathered here to remember a few Marhumeen of ours. And if anything, it just reminds people like us, people like me at least, and I don't speak for everybody, but at least I speak for myself. It reminds me that whenever I wake up and I read the news of who has passed on from this world, I find that I know them. I find that I remember them. That I find I remember them since my childhood. So if anything, it only proves one thing, that I am getting close to death. That I am getting close to those people who are going. Very soon, I will have also to go. But besides that, we get an opportunity to remember them. Today, we are gathered today to remember Marhuma Shirin by Roshan Dewji, the mother-in-law of Nazir Bhai, our own Nazir Bhai Marali. In her own status, she was in Nairobi for a long time, and then Vancouver, where everybody in Vancouver remembers her as Marhum Roshan Bhai's wife, and Roshan Bhai's sister, Roshan Mom's and Marali Dewji's sister. May Allah exalt her status, inshallah. And then we have Shirin by Muraj from Baqir Muraj from Mombasa. That is Nazar Bhai's sister and Baqir by Muraj's wife, related to Habib by Muraj here, who recites Majlis and joins us in this group many times. We remember Hassan by Shivji Karim. Hassan by, I personally remember him for his good service, excellent contribution to the community when I was a president. He was one of the silent supporters, and we truly miss him. Hashim by Okera, Marhum Hashim by Okera. I met him with Sheikh Mujahid, I'm sure he remembers, in 1982 in Tehran, when we were studying in Hausa, and Hashim Bhai came with a group of boys from Mogadishu to try and settle them in Tehran to study in the house that we were studying in. And unfortunately, all of them went back except Sheikh Muslim Banji, who you all know from Dodoma. And he was brought by Hashim by Okera. Since then, Hashim Bhai has been in contact with us, extremely active in the field of tabligh. And lastly, he left Canada, migrated to Kenya just to start something for the indigenous Somali Shias living in Nairobi. But alas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so loved him that he took him to him. And inshallah, his mission will carry on. For everything, nothing rather stops when people move on to the next world. We have Malim Ramadan Ngwame. Those of you who have been to Mombasa may remember him having led namaz in the mosque. Malim Ramadan Ngwame, again, a teacher, a mentor, a student in Hausa and Qum. When me and Sheikh Mujahid were studying in Tehran, and whenever we used to go to Qum, we used to stay up at his place. Discussing different aspects of studying in Hausa, and he as a host was so hospitable, cannot forget his and his family's hospitality when we, a group of boys, used to go there in Qum. May Allah elevate his status. We have then Marhum Mohamed by Alimohamed. Those of you who remember him from London will remember him as leading many groups to Karbala and Ziyarat, and ultimately he has also gone to his Lord. Brother to Amir Bhai of our group. And lastly, yesterday's news of Marhum Murtaza by Karbala, who is Murtaza by Jivraj, known as Murtaza Karbala. He was again a leading personality, a teacher of madrasa, a personality that many of us here will remember him. And for all these Marhumeen that we are gathered here, and all our Marhumeen, may I request us to please recite one Surah Al-Fatiha before we carry on with the Majlis. Rahimallahu man qara al-Fatiha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Who there is better than one who calls to the path of Allah and does good deeds and says, I am from amongst those who have surrendered to the will of Allah. I want to stop only at the first part. Who is better? Whose words are better? Whose sayings are better than those who say that we call, than those who call on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Calling on the path of Allah can take different names, but if I were to use the most common name that we all understand, we would use the word tabligh. And I'm sure Sheikh Mujahid has not spared any kind of efforts in trying to explain to all our Momineen in this group and everywhere else that what is tabligh, what is the importance of tabligh, and why it is so important. So today I will just talk about tabligh from slightly a different perspective. Tabligh, first of all, literally in Arabic means to convey. So if I am entrusted with something that I am supposed to convey to somebody, then I am called a muballigh. That means I take and I convey. Primarily, it is in words. It can be things and so on, but we'll talk about what tabligh is as far as this concept of tabligh is concerned. But let us understand that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent messengers, when He sent the most important message to the Holy Prophet, the command that He told the Holy Prophet, فَبَلِّغْ مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ. Balligh. Balligh is from the word tabligh. The command form of tabligh is balligh, convey. فإن لم تفعل فما بلغت رسالة الله. And if you don't do that, then you have not conveyed anything, any other message. So the most important, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say that remind them, warn them, tell them, guide them. All these are synonyms that may be used for tabligh, because tabligh has so many other synonyms. Call them towards the path of Allah, admonish them towards what Allah promises them in terms of punishment, guide them to what is right, the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remind them of what they inherently know what is right, give them good tidings. All these things are things that are synonyms of Allah's way of conveying to the public. But the most important thing is tabligh, because tabligh has no strings attached. It is not wajib, number one. It is not that there is punishment attached if you don't do it. It comes from an inner passion that when we have something good, we want to give it to others. That is tabligh. Tabligh is where we are so happy, we are so gratified, we are so content with what we have in terms of guidance, in terms of righthood from where it has come to us. We are so happy with that, that when we look at people who seem to not understand it or who don't have it, we feel the urge and passion to convey it to them. That is tabligh. If we are indifferent, or if we have it and we just don't feel that we want to share it with others or we want to give it to others, that is a shortage in us, a naqs, a weakness in us. Because by nature, Allah has created human beings as entities that want to share all the good that we have. Look at wealth. When you have wealth, you want to give out in charity. And although Allah has endowed charity on us, some of it obligatory, some of it recommended, but the person who gives charity knows the gratification, knows the sense of happiness he or she would feel. Giving. You have happiness, you are smiling, you want to make others happy, you make them laugh. Those who make others laugh know the feeling of giving that sense of happiness to others. Similarly, when it comes to guidance, and I remember, I'm sure most of my elders here would know, I remember the story about Ayatollah Mohsin Hakim Radwanullahi alayh telling Mullah Azhar when they met in 1960s that how long have you been in Africa for? And when Mullah responded that we have been there for 150 years. Sayyid Mohsin Hakim asked only one question: and how many local indigenous people have become Shia? To which Mullah did not have an answer, because there was no concerted effort, there was no formal attempts to convert the local indigenous Africans to Shias. This before 60s. And what did Sayyid Mohsin Hakim say? Sayyid Mohsin al-Hakim said, how can you eat of their food and not give them what you have? How can you partake from what they give you, their land, their nature, their crops, their food, and then you don't even have the decency to share what you have got in terms of haqq, in terms of Ahlul Bayt, in terms of fadlum min Allah, the guidance that Allah has given you. Why don't you share it with them? And so started the struggle, so started the attempts of tabligh. But let us look at tabligh, that since then what has happened is that we try to understand tabligh as an abstract, that this is handled by those in the mosque, by those who are religious, and by those who formed an institution, and therefore they will do the tabligh. Perhaps if we want to take part, what we can do is just give them some funds, donate towards their cause, and we will be taking part in tabligh. No, tabligh is an inherent duty, that is a responsibility of each and every individual. All of us. It doesn't mean that all of us tomorrow have to sit on the minbar and start giving lectures. Because tabligh is at a different phase. Tabligh is to convey what is right. Tabligh is to express what is true. Tabligh is to make sure that you and others have synchronized the thought process in believing what is right. That particular exercise is not reserved only for Mullah or Maulana, is not reserved only for Shaykh or Ayatollah. It is each and every individual in their own capacity, in their own circumstances and situation, must stand up and remind, warn, admonish, guide, tell others, call others that this is not right. This is how it should happen. And that is tabligh in its own way. If you look at the lives of all the prophets, you will find that some prophets were sent to the whole world. The Ulul Azm, for example. Universal. The whole world, the prophets were sent to a community, their ummat is the whole world. But there are prophets who were sent only to a local community, whether some of them were only to a certain geographical location, a village, a town, a country, or a region, or no, some only to their family, their own family. Because the prophets had a message, had a duty to convey, and that conveying was within their capacity of how far they can convey, given the resources they have, given the strength they have, given the knowledge they have, given the reach they have. So every person who enjoys this bounty from Allah is duty bound to convey this bounty to others, to share it with them without incurring any costs or expenses, without any efforts on our part, without losing. We have to do that at all times. We don't realize, but Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi Anil Munkar is also part of some kind of tabligh. Of course, it has its conditions. We don't have to be a nuisance by telling everybody everything. We have to assess the situation. But at the same time, what it requires from us is to understand what is right first. The least we can do is to embark on this path of being a good muballigh to ourselves, to our family members. That is why, remember, family members are the first people who we are responsible for. So they should benefit from our tabligh, our acts of tabligh, whatever you call it. You don't have to call it an association of tabligh. You don't have to call it a mission of tabligh. All you have to do is to guide them, call them towards what is right. Just the family members. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum naran waquduha an-nas wal hijara. O you who believe, save yourselves, number one, and your family members, number two, from a fire whose fuel is going to be stick and stones, or human beings and stones. وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. So we have a duty to protecting by sharing the bounty we have, and that is tabligh. That is the basic concept of tabligh. The idea that tabligh is by visiting villages in rural areas, going and talking to non-Muslims about what is Islam is not true. That is one form of tabligh. And then from there on, you go on to a different form of tabligh, which is Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy Anil Munkar. People need reminding what is right and what is wrong. Sometimes we forget. We are all human beings. We need reminding. And when we remind each other, we are fulfilling the duty of tabligh. Simple. That is what is tabligh. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to encourage us, to motivate us to remember tabligh at all times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put so many things. You see in the Quran, you see in the ahadith, the Prophet, the Imams have talked of so many things that will be exclusively reserved for those who carry the duty of tabligh, those who perform the duty of tabligh, those who discharge their responsibilities of tabligh. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, says the difference between a muballigh and an abid. You see, al-abid is after an alim. When somebody gets knowledge, then you put that into practice. So when you learn about the virtues of certain acts like prayers, like du'as, like munajat, you become an alim. That means you know about that thing. Then you go on to practicing it. You become an abid. An abid is somebody who is practicing what you have learned. So that person is called an abid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment, when it comes to telling people to enter paradise and telling them to go away or come in, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell the abid, "Intaliq al jannah," go to paradise, you deserve paradise, because the abid has done ibadah, the abid has worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when a muballigh comes there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, stop. Why? Stop, because I am empowering you to take with you those who you want to serve. Shafa'ah. Don't go alone. Go in and take with you those who you talked to, those who you conveyed to, those who you had your heart set on, those who you had a passion for trying to get to guidance. Many of them may be lingering behind. Many of them may still be behind, trying to get to where you are. I am giving you the power of intercession. Intercede on their behalf and take them with you. It's the power of tabligh. And if we think that by telling people, by guiding them, by calling them towards what is right. Some people say, but why should I do it? I'm not an appointed prophet. Yes. We are not appointed prophets. So therefore it is not wajib on us, but it is our moral, ethical duty to do what the prophet did, to do what the imams did. And every one of them has one thing in mind, to take mankind out of darkness into light of guidance. That is our responsibility. And that is why when the Prophet was sending Imam Ali al-Islam to Yemen, he says Yemen was new land at that time, fertile land. People had heard of the Holy Prophet, but they had not become Muslims yet. Imam Ali al-Islam is told by the Holy Prophet, go there, talk to them, explain them what is right, invite them towards the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Ali, la in hada Allahu bika rajulan. Oh Ali, if Allah guides one person through you, khayrun min kulli ma talat alayhi shams. Better than everything on which the sun has shone. Everything. Just one person. One person. You know, we living in the western part, it's an interesting hadith that I'd like to share with you. Living in a country where we are surrounded by not only Ahlul Kitab, as we tend to claim, that we believe that all around us are Christians and Jews. Well, around us are, if I may say, more boldly, people of no religion, atheists, secularists, people who don't believe in God. People who don't want to believe in God. And even those who used to claim they were Christians and Jews, today they are new generation, just don't want to believe in religion. So we are surrounded by not only mushrikeen, but mulhideen, you know, those who reject the existence of God. Now, in those circumstances, what do? This is a hadith that is found in Ihtijaj, hadith where Hamad al-Samadri comes to Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salam alayh and says, قلت لأبي عبد الله جعفر ibn Muhammad إني أدخل بلاد الشرك. At that time, all these other Bilad al-Rum and Bilad al-Hind and all these were considered Bilad al-Shirk, where Islam had not spread at that time yet. So, إني أدخل بلاد الشرك وإن من عندنا يقول. Now, I have friends, I have people who tell me, إن مت ثم حشرت معهم ثم حشرت معهم. That means if you died there with them, you will be resurrected with them. You died with the kuffars. You died with the mushrikeen. You will be resurrected with them. My friends are telling me this. This man is complaining to Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam. قال فقال لي. So he's saying, فقال لي, that is the Imam told me, يا حماد إذا كنت ثم تذكر أمرنا. So if you are with the mushrikeen, if you are amidst the mushrikeen, do you remember our affairs? تذكر أمرنا وتدعوه إليه وتدعو إليه, and show it to others. Others, not as in Muslims, other non-Muslims, because he's saying he's in Bilad al-Shirk. Classical example would be some of us, all right, we are now in the West here, we are so many amongst ourselves, but classic example would be those, and I know one or two people in states who are isolated areas, our own Shias. And what do? They have their Ashura gatherings and occasions. They have their Ramadan occasions. And they call people to explain to them what it is we think. The Imam is asking Hamad, Ya Hamad, إذا كنت ثم, that means when you are with them, تذكر أمرنا, do you remember our affairs? وتدعو إليه, and you call people towards it. قال فقلت نعم. I said, yes, I do that. قال فإذا كنت في هذه المدن, and if you are in these countries, that is Bilad al-Islam, in these cities where all around you are Muslims, تذكر أمرنا وتدعو إليه, do you remember us and do you call people towards us? قال قلت لا. Said, I don't do it, because I am around people who know. So I don't take the pain of establishing, setting up events or sessions where we remember you or we call others towards you. I don't do it when I'm in Muslim countries. Hamad is telling the Imam. But when I'm outside, yes, I do it. I make it a point that I do it. I remember the Imams, I remember the Ahlul Bayt, and I call others towards this. So this is what the Imam tells him. قال فقال لي. Hamad is saying, قال فقال لي, that is the Imam is saying, telling me, إنك إن مت ثم حشرت أمة وحدك. The Imam is saying that if you were to die in that situation where you are in Bilad al-Shirk and you are remembering us and you are calling others towards us, you will be resurrected as an ummah on its own. وَسَعَى نُورَكَ بَيْنَ يَدَيْكَ. You will have your own light by which you will go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we come and are overwhelmed by non-Muslims around us, what is it that we do? Do we actually stand proud of what we believe in, of what we know is right, or do we tend to be apologetic and give in and try to be defensive and say, but this is our right and this is our freedom and this is culture and this is what we have. These are all apologetic kind of explanations. What we have to be firm is to be proud of what we believe in, to understand what is right, and then stand up and say, this is what we are doing, and we are asking you, appealing you, academically, rationally, logically, using reason to understand This is what we believe in. And this is what we stand for. That is tabligh. And that the Imam says on that day, you will be resurrected as an ummah on your own. You will have your own light. You know, an ummah on your own is like Nabi Ibrahim being told in the Holy Quran, Kana ummatan. Nabi Ibrahim is labeled, titled, he was an ummah on his own. On his own. Similarly, here the Imam is saying that if you are able to do that, when you are overwhelmed by non-believers, if you are able to convey to them our message, you stand firm in what you believe in, you will be raised as an ummah on your own. So when it comes to trying to understand, let's try and see our places of work, our places of study, our local communities where we live, our local communities where we play sports. When we are intermingling with the non-Muslims, let us remember we have a duty of tabligh. The duty is not to convert them. That is the last thing, because that is not our responsibility at all. إِنَّكَ لَن تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You will not guide who you like. It is Allah who guides, He also wishes. But it is your responsibility, it is our responsibility to at least convey to the public, this is what we are, this is what we believe in. You like it or lump it. I am going to do what I like to do, what I believe in. When I say, the most important thing is when you are amongst Muslims, then at least with each other, we need to remind each other the importance of this particular act, tabligh. And what is the message? We have a duty to understand what it is. We have a responsibility to learn what is right and what is wrong. And then we have a duty to convey it to people, to our own selves first, to our family members, kith and kin next to us, our neighbors, our friends, our local community. We have to just stand up and do what we believe is right, what we, practice what we think is right, and people will say, this is what is right. What I am doing is not right. People will be reminded by what we do. Well, when we look at the lessons we want to learn for anything in Islam, any field of akhlaq, any field of aqidah, any act of ibadah, you want to learn the right lesson, you look at Karbala. And tabligh is no exception. You look at Karbala, where Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he left Medina, when he got to Mecca, when he left Mecca, when he got to Karbala, all the time, his constant prayer, his constant statement was that I have left my family, my hometown, I have left everybody for only one thing. Amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. So that I can tell people what is right, and I can tell them what is wrong. But this is not only about Imam Hussein alayhi salam. On the night of Ashura, you find Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam getting together all the Banu Hashim. You find Zuhair ibn al-Qayn getting together all the companions. And what do? Each one is reminding them of the reason why they had got together in Karbala. Each one is reminding themselves that we are here because we stood up to fight for the cause of the Holy Prophet, represented by his grandson Imam Hussein al-Islam. Let us not be ashamed when we face the daughter of the Holy Prophet tomorrow. Let us defend Imam with our blood so that no harm comes to him, and that when we are raised on the day of judgment, we are able to stand proud in front of the Holy Prophet and Bibi Fatima alayha salam. And the companions were reminding each other. And one most important particular incident comes to mind is when Muslim ibn Awsaja, who was such an old companion, who was perhaps the oldest close friend of Imam Hussein, when he was martyred in Karbala, when he fell down, breathing his last breaths, Imam Hussein al-Islam came to him with Imam Habib ibn Madahir was there. Muslim ibn Hawsaja turns to Habib and says, Habib, don't leave Imam alone. Muslim ibn Hawsaja, at the last breath of his, is remembering his duty to tell Habib, remember, we were here for a cause, don't forsake the cause. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Parvardigar, O Allah, whatever little we have done today in terms of remembering your message, in terms of remembering the martyrs of Karbala, however little it has been, O Allah, in your mercy, with your mercy, accept the rewards and give the rewards to the Marhumeen we have gathered together here to remember. O Allah, bless them all, illuminate their graves, and grant them a place in the proximity of the 14 Marhumeen. Salam. Forgive all their shortcomings and sins. And may I ask all of us to recite once again a Surah Al-Fatiha for all these Marhumeen mentioned for the Majlis today and all our Marhumeen. إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات رحم الله من قرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Let us stand up for ziyarat. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذريته علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله تعالى مخرجه وظهوره ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى اللهم صل